Alright, we're almost ready to begin. But first we'll go through a checklist just to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row before the foam starts to flow. Number one, we have the white cloth glued on to the beach ball with the minimal amount of wrinkles in there. Doesn't matter if they have some wrinkles, we just don't want big flaps. And the ridges that were created from the wings have been trimmed down to within 3/4 or 1/2 inch of the ball. We have a little stem or handhold created. We have a second cloth large enough to wrap all the way around the beach ball once it has the great stuff on it. If you can only find a cloth that gets only one way, but is long enough to go the opposite direction, make sure to put the short side up first, and then bring the long section over to cover. You'll make sure you get that foam enclosed in cloth. You have a bucket with some water in order to wet this cloth and the beach ball. You have your great stuff foam. If you're attempting to make 3 pumpkins, you want to make sure that these pumpkins have just been blown up to firm, and you want to make sure that both of your 20-ounce cans of great stuff foam have been well agitated, shooken up for a minute or more, and that you may not need it, but that you have a 3rd can ready to go as well, shaken up with the nozzle on. You want to be able to go from one can to the other when the first one stops its flow. You're going to make sure that you have your strands of electrical tape all pulled out. If you're doing 1 pumpkin, that's 5 strands. If you're doing 3 pumpkins, you will need 15 strands pulled out, ready to go, kept in such a manner that they don't tangle with one another. You also want to make sure that you're wearing clothes that you don't care if you get great stuff on, because once this stuff sticks to clothing, it doesn't come off. As well, a pair of light-duty gloves is also a good idea as well. Okay, we are about to begin. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to wet this cloth, and then we are going to wet this cloth as well. So we're going to get this wet, immerse it right into the water, squeeze the excess water out. You don't want this sopping wet, you just want it damp. We're now going to get this wet as well. Now I'm just taking a bit of water, putting it onto the form like this. You could use a spray bottle. So continue to get this wet. Very good. Again, it doesn't have to be sopping wet. You know, it's got to be damp though. You want enough moisture on there so that the great stuff foam can use this moisture in the curing process. I'm going to put this up here and zoom in the camera so you can see how I lay this foam on. Okay, gloves are on. You hold the can upside down and you're just going to start laying in the foam very gently. You don't want to go putting a whole pile on here to begin with. Also notice I have this in here upside down. The stem is at the bottom, or once I finish foaming the bottom, I can pick it up, flip it over, hold it by the stem to finish off the top. Okay, here we go. So what I do is I lay it in like this, side by side, making sure the foam is touching the row above it and the row below. Do not assume that the expansion of the foam will take up whatever little voids you have that are between the foam. Fill in some of these spots. I've got some voids in. Put some foam along this edge here just to make sure that all gets filled in. That side. Rhythmic. Back and forth. Back and forth. Even pressure on the trigger. Just going in, filling up some of those spots. Rotating it again. Had a little bit of foam drop off there, not concerned. Just making to fill in any voids here. Very gently. Couple there. Alright. Gonna lay this can on its side. I want to try and keep that foam as close to the top of that can as possible. Flipping it over. Picking up the foam can. Beginning again. You can see that. Now you can see the foam that I've just laid on is beginning to set already. So it's important to move quickly but to turn deliberately. Going around making sure that I've got all these things. And I just dropped it there, which never a good idea, but we're going to be okay. Just going around, checking now to make sure that I've got no voids. Nothing big. There's one big one over here, so filling in. Checking again. More voids. Checking again. Okay, looking pretty good. Okay, foam is on. It's go time. You see it doesn't quite reach on this side. We'll see, hopefully it does on this, but if it doesn't, it's not a big deal. Almost all the way. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this side up very gently, very carefully, gathering it to this point. Do the same thing here. Very carefully gathering it. I don't want to trap any foam in a fold. I just want it to be as smooth as possible there. Okay, we've got this. That's a pretty big chunk here at the top, so we're just going to have to manage that. So, at this point, what we're doing is we're beginning to press the foam. It's still malleable, still workable, so we're going to work it. We're going to press it into itself. there's my little stem there. So I'm making sure I'm bringing up to this stem. You probably can't see that there, so I'm going to show it at the front. Here it is. Pressing this foam, working it, combining it, making sure that it is all together. Being very gentle as I'm doing it though. I'm not being rough, I'm just combining the foam. A couple through here. And you want to go all the way around. Make sure that you're getting all of the foam and that all of the foam is in contact with each other. Okay. I don't like that, but there's really not much I can do with it right now, so I'm just going to try and do that. Okay, I'm now going to kind of set that a little bit so it doesn't roll. Gloves are coming off. The gloves are off now. I'm going to grab the first of my tape. I'm going to come around, put the tape down, follow the first line here, and I'm just making sure I press this into the foam. I'm not trying to put it all the way down to the beach ball, but I want to make sure that I've got it impressed into the foam to create that rib. There's one. So now we've got 4 more that we have to put in. So basically we're going to do 4, 2, 3, 4. We'll find the center right about there, and that'll be our first. Pulling it in again to the foam, being very gentle as I move this around, making sure that I'm following a good line here, as even as I can make it. Pulling it in. I'm going to flip that over this side, just so that I'm not crushing anything out. Next one right about there. Again, I'm pressing it into the foam, making sure to get some ribs showing there. Pressing it in. Same on this side, pressing it in. I can feel this foam at the bottom really beginning to want to start setting up now. So you just have to work consciously, deliberately, making sure you got it all in. Last one. Splitting this kind of right down the center. Move that off to the side. Same on this side, splitting it right down the center. Now as the foam sets up, you're probably going to have to push a little harder into here to get it to take that shape. Okay, now that's done, same thing. Going to try and work this here through here a little bit more. Working these ribs in a little bit. Shaping things here a little bit if you can. This foam started setting up really quickly. Now that's probably a combination of the wet cloth against the beach ball. Could be other reasons as well. Sometimes I find some of these foams, maybe it's just the chemical composition. You don't quite get the recipe right, and so it some of it sets up slower, some of it expands more. So, anyways, here we are. All of the tape is on the form. It's been pressed in to give us these pumpkin shapes, but just pressed in. Not really tight, not right against the form. Kind of just pressed into the foam and not into the basketball. Okay, this is going to sit for an hour. It should be cured by then enough for me to remove the cloth. It's also easier to remove this cloth when it is wet. So as I said, we're going to let this sit for an hour. That'll mean it'll be enough to remove the cloth. But I don't think that the foam is fully cured for our purposes. What I like to do is, after I pull this off, this cloth off, I like to leave it for a couple of days. That way, the structure, those bubbles that are created inside the foam, the walls of those bubbles have a chance to really, really solidify, really cure, really set up. I'm going to show you why towards the end of the project. Why I think it's important to let these things sit for a couple of days. Next will be the reveal.